Welcome to Safe and Sound, sponsored by White Mountain Fire and Life Safety. I am Kirk Webb, your host, and today on the show we have Chad Berlin, Fire Marshal with Pinetop Fire.
Thank you for having me.
How's it going?
Going great. You?
It's a wonderful day. It's great out there, and sun's shining and things like that, and springtime. I love it.
Beautiful.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where some of your history, how you got to where you're at today.
For sure. So I've been with Pinetop Fire for 15 years. I started out as a firefighter EMT. Did that for about 12 years, and then slowly started working into the prevention side. So started taking on more inspection, investigation duties, started doing plan review. And then in January 2019, I took over as fire marshal.
Nice. So I know we've worked a lot together the last couple of years and getting into doing it out in the community and doing some education. I know that's one of our roles of what we do. And so we want to kind of recap a little bit. Last month we had Rex Thompson from the Forest Service with us, and we talked a lot about cleaning out around our houses. Why is that important, especially this time of year? So
this time of year is very important. As you've probably noticed, it's getting hotter, like you mentioned earlier. You said it was nice, but it's definitely getting hotter. It's getting drier. Our winds are picking up, and we're definitely getting into our fire season. So right now is a time to clean up around your home, start preparing and mitigating those things that can make your home a little more defensible in the event of a wildfire.
And I know the program we use, the Ready, Set, Go, ties in with FireWise, and that Ready, Set, Go takes a more than just cleaning up around your house. And I know one of the things with cleaning up and mitigating, like you're talking about, they changed it to the zones a little bit. They got the zone 1, which is 0 to 5 feet out from the house, which that's most critical, right?
Right, so they actually changed the terminology. So now the 0 to 5 is immediate zone. The 5 to 30 is the intermediate zone, and the 30 to 100 feet is the extended zone.
Right, and some people don't even have that third extended zone. They may only have even up to close to the immediate in some cases, right?
We do run into that quite a bit.
But regardless, it's still something that we need to take in consideration, because we do live in what we call the wildland-urban interface. We live in a forest, and it keeps growing, and we got to keep maintaining it, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
So now, even along with doing safety practices outside the home, there's also things that we like teaching with the kids, but it's important for parents to know as well as some of the safety tips inside our homes. What are some of those things that we'd like to discuss with the kids? And
So the first thing that comes to mind, and one of the easiest to remedy, is make sure you have smoke detectors first off, and then make sure those smoke detectors work. And what we're looking for there is we want to make sure every sleeping area, so every bedroom, has a smoke detector. Outside the sleeping area, typically in a hallway, make sure that has a smoke detector. And then on every level of the home. So if you have a basement or you have an upstairs, make sure there's smoke detectors there as well.
Right, and the kitchen areas don't really need to have one there, because I know when I'm teaching the kids, it's like, who's the smoke alarm when you're in the kitchen? It's that person that's cooking, right?
Right. It should never be unattended. That's something we tell the kids and the parents as well.
Right. And as we get older and we get more wise in the years and things like that, and we're living off on our own, and maybe even a single, like my dad right now, he's in fact just recently turned 90. We can't leave him on his own, because he was still able to stay at home by himself. We had to actually disconnect the stove because he would forget and leave things burning, and it becomes very dangerous.
Very dangerous, and that's a good point. The 65 plus demographic is actually one of our highest populations that are oftentimes involved in fires.
Right, burn victims and burn deaths and fatalities, things like that, yes. Yeah. So some of the other things that we work with the kids is EDITH. What is EDITH?
Exit drills in the home, and we actually just did this at my house.
Nice.
Yeah, we recently moved, and the kids, they're doing their online schooling right now, but they have some spare time on their hands, so I downloaded some the graph sheet, the grid paper from NFPA.
Right.
And then the tip sheet with them, and I gave them an assignment before I left for work one day. I said, hey, I'd like you guys to do the layout of the house, show me 2 exits from every room, pick a meeting place. We did the whole thing. So when I got back from work and we sat down to dinner, they presented what they had.
Nice.
And then we actually ran through the drill.
Right, because it's a whole new place.
Whole new place.
And you know, and some of these places that people may be living in, renting, or whatever the case, those windows don't always open, do they?
Well, no, and I was even in my home. So it's a new place. We haven't exercised the windows. They've been closed all winter. And we found that to be a fact. In the boys' room, went to open the windows. I actually had to open them because they couldn't open them themselves. And then taught them how to, you know, push the screen out.
Right.
So yeah, I would encourage people to definitely don't just put it on paper, exercise the drill. You should do it at least twice a year. You should do it once during daylight hours, and then you should do it once at night too, because most of our fires happen when?
At nighttime,
That's right. So.
Yeah, and you know, and working with people that have two-story houses and the bedrooms are upstairs, and if they don't have a safe way of getting out, you know, consider looking at getting one of those safety ladders. They have nice little boxes attached to the wall right under the window,
That's
or
right.
you can hide them under the bed, or it's something to be able to, because, you know, in fact, I know when I'm teaching the kids, it's like, you know, how many of you guys can fly? You know, and I get several people that raise their hand and things like that, and I say, yeah, you can fly until that sudden stop at the bottom, you know,
right.
And it's like, you don't want that sudden stop at the bottom because it could be very dangerous and in some cases critical and fatal in some cases.
It can be.
So
yeah,
you got to think about all those different.
You definitely have to think about that. I think another solid point going along with Edith and even the exit or the pre-planning side of that is once you get outside, stay outside. Get to your meeting place and stay at your meeting place.
Right, and we always tell them how many meeting places. Oh, we got 5. No, you got one meeting place.
One meeting place. So
that you know that everybody got out, or if not, and do we ever send people back into a burning building?
That is correct. Not for people, not for pets.
Right.
Once you get outside, stay outside.
And
then phone the fire department once you're outside.
Yeah, and let them know if somebody's missing. Let them know where they might be, because as firefighters, our first goal is life safety.
Right.
So, you know, and thinking about some other, you know, I know technology is this wonderful technology has been around for years, but it's improving, and we're starting to see a lot more of it in homes, and that's residential sprinklers.
Yeah.
I know we've got in fact, we're going to fade into a video right now with Ron Hazelton where he has a side-by-side burn demo, and you're going to see where these 2 rooms he's built. One has no sprinkler in it, and the other room has one single sprinkler head in it, and same kind of stuff, furniture and whatnot inside these rooms. So let's watch this video. It's about 3 minutes long, and then we'll talk about it when we come back.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Ron Hazelton. 20 years ago, the NFPA, AFSA, and NFSA founded the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition. One of the things we've learned over the past 2 decades is while there's a lot of compelling information to communicate about home fire sprinklers, nothing tells the story better than a demonstration. I'm a firm believer that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and if that's the case, then what you're about to see is worth 1,000,000. Here are 2 virtually identical rooms, 8 by 8 feet, furnished with the same furniture and accessories. The only difference is that the room on the left is fitted with a single home fire sprinkler on the ceiling. We're going to set both of these rooms on fire, beginning with the one without the sprinkler. The fire is set by igniting newspaper in a trash can through a hole in the back wall. Within a few seconds, flames are visible in the trash container. Quickly, they ignite the curtain above. The fire climbs rapidly toward the ceiling. In less than a minute, the temperature rises to well over 500 degrees, and thick, dark smoke begins to accumulate. Already, the room is unsurvivable. At 1.5 minutes, the fire continues to grow, rapidly engulfing nearly everything in the room and pushing a thick layer of toxic smoke downward. A few seconds later, flashover occurs. Everything in the room erupts in flames. The temperature is now well over 1,500 degrees. And remember, all this has happened in less than 2 minutes. Firefighters now attack the flames with a high-pressure fire hose as dense, churning smoke erupts out of the structure. The room and its contents are completely destroyed. The scene is one of total devastation. Now we're going to repeat the process on the room fitted with the fire sprinkler. Ignition takes place. Shortly, the flames are visible and begin consuming the curtain. At 30 seconds, the smoke alarm sounds. 15 seconds later, when the temperature at the ceiling reaches 165 degrees, the sprinkler activates. Almost instantly, the flames are extinguished and the room begins to fill with smoke and steam. The aftermath lies in stark contrast to the unsprinklered room. Even the curtain remains intact, and water damage is minimal compared to the massive amount of water delivered by the fire hose. The evidence speaks for itself: utter and complete destruction versus minor damage. Even more important is what impact sprinklers would have on the lives of those living in a structure like this. For more information on the compelling benefits of home fire sprinklers, visit homefiresprinkler.org.
All right, so what do you think about that video?
So that video is very telling. I mean, it's hard to dispute what you've seen. I mean, like you had mentioned earlier, the rooms were identical. They did one without a sprinkler and then one with a sprinkler. And the damage to the rooms themselves, I think it speaks for itself. The one without the sprinkler, the fire went to full flashover. The crews came in, put the fire out. But if you look at the aftermath, the couch was almost entirely burned. The entire room and contents burned, versus the sprinkler side, where it contained it to a very small portion of the room. Very little water was used. The conditions were still survivable at that point, and which would allow folks to exit the home.
Right.
Yeah.
And the sprinklers, they're designed for life safety, but not only do that, they provide life safety, but they actually help with saving the home. You got a little bit of water damage.
Very little, though, as compared to a hose stream. I mean,
and direct, because we've switched over to using direct straight stream nozzles.
That's right.
Which they do a lot of damage. It makes it difficult for us as investigators, doesn't it?
It does. It eradicates the evidence, as we say. But I mean, and I think the most critical point to that is the sprinkler puts the fire out fast when the fire is small, so it requires less water. Versus by the time we get there, oftentimes it requires large amounts of water, which then you have fire damage, water damage, smoke damage, all the above.
Right, and I know we actually have seen some of the testing that these national laboratories have done, and they've taken some of the new furniture as opposed to a house that has old furniture, and the new furniture burns so much faster, so much more toxins in that smoke because of how they're built and designed. And so, and you could see in that video how the smoke just was tremendous.
Thick and black, yeah, and it just...
And how quick it happened.
That's right.
So I know a lot of people have a heartache with maybe putting sprinklers in their homes, but I think, you know, if they really stop and look at it, and that's where we actually have hopefully I built one of these side-by-side burn demos that I can move around from place to place, and hopefully we're going to try and do some of those, because seeing it in person is even more dramatic.
Yes, it's very dramatic, and I would suggest for people to, especially if you're building a new home, to look at some of the data out there. It's dispelled a lot of the old myths that surrounded sprinkler systems. NFPA has a great fact sheet. It even gives a cost comparison. Of course, it depends what region you live in. But overall, it's about $1.35 per square foot to put a sprinkler system into a new home, which really equates to upgrading your carpet.
That's roughly, 1,200 square foot home, you're talking maybe close to $2,000.
Right, and for the benefit that you get and the safety, the security.
And a lot of insurance companies will actually give you some rebates or breaks on your cost of insurance because you have that.
That's a fact.
You know, and I know a lot of people, there's a misconception that, you know, because commercial sprinkler systems are completely different than residential. There's a lot more requirements, the type of piping they use. So residential sprinklers, that's why it comes in a lot cheaper, because they're using different kind of piping, which is adequate and safe and has proven to work in home fires.
That's right. There's not a lot of upkeep with the residential systems either. So that's a plus. And they can also be designed for cold weather environments. So we definitely want to have that message out there to those of us that live up north.
Right. I was just going to mention that, because that was one of the other complaints we get. Well, it's going to freeze. If you install it correctly, and if there's, it's underneath the insulation instead of on top of it, and you keep your house at 50 degrees, it's not going to freeze on you. And so there's ways to take care of it, and it still works in areas where we do have freezing like we have. And so, yeah, please consider it.
Please consider
it. We can't mandate sprinklers be done, but we're starting to get into these where homes are building out in the rural areas where they don't have, maybe they're even outside of a fire district.
Which we have quite a few.
And so response times, one, they're very far from our district, and that's probably why they're not in our districts. But time for us to finally get the notification that the house is on fire and there, a lot of things can happen. And it doesn't take much to install these, and they even have heads that are recessed and hidden, so you don't even see them.
Yeah, they've made a lot of things that are aesthetically pleasing now. So like you said, they're recessed, they're hidden, or they match the paint that you have in the home. They've really come a long ways.
Right, and like you say, they're little to no maintenance on them, in fact, I think the statistics show that somewhere in the upper 80s to 90% survival rate of a home with sprinklers.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and 80% of our fire deaths happen in residential homes. So just by putting the sprinkler system in, you're increasing your odds by exactly what you just said.
So if you're in that spot where you're going to be building a house, it's not a requirement, but it is a very good, strong suggestion that we offer.
Yeah.
So
it's a recommendation. If you have questions, I would encourage anybody to contact your local fire department and then do some research. Like I mentioned earlier, NFPA is a great website to look at some of the facts.
So as we move on along with all of that and some of the different features that we have built into our homes to help save our lives without us having to think or worry about them, right? What are some other things? I know we created a home safety survey, and if you got requested to go into a home and do a home survey, what are some of the things that we're looking for, like trip hazards and?
Right, so you're looking for, just like you said, trip hazards. Are there rugs, especially if it's in your, there's elderly people that live there. What are their trip hazards? I mean, that's one of the number one injuries for the elderly population. So you want look at rugs, you want to look at extension cords, look at the steps, make sure the handrails are solid.
Right. And pets. I know pets are very comforting to a lot of people, and a good thing to help keep their spirits up. But we also got to remember that they can easily be tripped over too. And so working with people that work well with pets and train them so that they don't get in your way and things like that. But some of the other things I know we look at, and a lot of times I think we forget about dryers. The lint buildup, and I don't know how many dryer fires you've been on.
I've had a few.
And same here. And it's interesting, so it makes me kind of think of, do I keep my own dryer clean enough and things like that? But yeah, there's very simple things. The type of lighting that we're using, is a lamp gonna fall over? And I mean, before I even was ever a firefighter, I can remember my son, and I think he was like 3 years old at the time, or maybe a little bit older. They tipped a lamp over, and it was one that they had in their bedroom. And we started smelling something really kind of odd, and it's like, oh my gosh, I go in there and there's a big, huge burn spot on the floor, and it didn't take long before that to happen.
Right.
Had we not been there, the house could have gone up and we come back to nothing left.
Yeah, it's simple things.
Yeah, so looking at that, looking at how they do their cooking and talking to them, and we talked a little bit earlier about the elderly, but not even only the elderly, but young kids, and teach them how that that 3 foot space around anything that creates heat, whether it's and if in the wintertime you're using those space heaters, You know, what's our rule of thumb again?
3 feet still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we want to, you know, and now let's we get into because this time of year for us is when we start getting close to fire season.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people were here when we had the Rodeo Chetasky fire. The Wallow fire was affected, you know, and the Cedar fire.
Mm-hmm.
So the Rodeo Chetasky fire, I know there was, you know, we evacuated a lot of people at that point.
Right.
But then what are some of the simple things that you teach the public when we're talking about evacuations?
So I think the best program out there right now is the Ready, Set, Go program. And I believe you guys talked about that last month too, but it's something that it's like your own personal wildfire protection plan
Right.
or evacuation plan for individual households. Yeah.
And I know, you know, it talks in that, and if you have a need to get the information from that, contact either one of us or our stations. We have a little pamphlet thing that, and it gives you the ideas of your 72-hour kit and your ready to go kit. If the situation arises that the fire is, because do we know where the fire is going to come from?
We do not.
So that's why it's really difficult to say, well, if we're going to evacuate, you're going to go this direction.
Right.
We don't know that, you
Right.
know, because I mean, are our winds always consistently from the southwest?
Not always.
Generally,
But
but
not always.
they change, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I know it's really difficult to give a specific escape plan, but having those general thoughts, you know, knowing, hey, if something were to happen right away, do I have a box of stuff that I can never replace? You
That's
know,
right.
I know we tell people take pictures of everything in your house,
Mm-hmm.
you know, constantly, because if your house burns up, can you remember everything that you had in there and it's
Right.
worth?
Right. Yeah, and part of that to-go kit too, prescriptions,
Oh yeah.
priceless items, important papers like you alluded to, personal effects that you might need. And then also it's good to have a contact list of people that you would either notify, yes, I'm evacuating, or people that you're accountable for, and pets as well. We talked about pets earlier. Pets are very important parts of people's family.
And pets may have medicines
They may have medicines.
and food.
Yeah.
Yeah, so having snacks in there, just
That's right.
some basics, you know, because if you have to try to gather that in a hurry, you know, well, me, you know, that's why I kind of like this CRM. It stands for can't remember much.
That's
And so it's, you know, that's what
Yeah.
I tell people. But you know, it's true when you get in a panic mode, and that's
Yeah.
something that doesn't happen all the time. Your brain kind of doesn't function, and that's why we as firefighters and working in medical field, we practice and we train all the time, because we train on things that don't normally happen and don't normally occur.
low frequency.
So
Yeah.
when that does happen, now we don't go into panic mode.
Right, and one thing I want to mention with the Ready, Set, Go program, it's not just a wildfire program. It's really an all hazards program. So you can have that. You don't just get your to-go kit ready, you know, during wildfire season. You should have that ready at all times, because you never. I mean,
We could have a snow event.
that's right. So you should have that prepared at all times.
Right.
One other part of that ready too, I would like to recommend to the people like Ready Navajo County.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That we used to have what would they call the reverse 911
Right.
system, but that's kind of gone away. And Ready Navajo County has taken over.
Mhm.
We still use our 311 info site.
Which is great.
And so we like you say, we recommend people that if you're not part of that system, that's our alert way to be able to alert people. You get text, and it happens all year long. You know, you might get good information coming in. But yeah, if we were to evacuate, that's the county's way of getting that started, because you know, we don't want everybody evacuating all at the same time, because that creates mass chaos. We don't have all of the roads to get out and stuff. So,
right. But it will at least tune you into, hey, I should pay attention. Maybe, you know, look at the local fire department or police department, social media sites, pay attention to the news.
And don't follow the rumors.
Don't follow the rumors. That's right.
So just
Use
because
trusted sites.
Yeah, just because Facebook is pretty prevalent, Instagram, different things like that, unless it's coming from a viable source,
Right.
And that's why sometimes that information is a little slow to get out, because we want to make sure that that information is correct and accurate and concise, and that people know and can tell where they need to go at that point.
That's right.
So I know we've talked about a whole lot of things here, and important things, keeping clean around our house, how to take care of inside our house and be safe, and talk about fire escape plans and with your family. I even like to tell kids, how often have you done a fire escape plan if you've spent the night at your friend's house?
That's actually that's a great point. It's a good way to spur that conversation with additional families that we might not be reaching, and a little peer pressure never hurts too.
Yeah, and because if you're in a, and I even use the motel. Have you been to a motel? Do you know how to? What if can a motel catch on fire? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So all those different things we've talked about. The fire sprinkler side-by-side burn demo, that was very
amazing.
Dramatic. Great information. Hopefully people, and we want to educate people on why it's important to do these kinds of things and take advantage of
That's right.
of technology that's out there, and it's been there for a long time. And then talking about evacuations and being safe this time of year. I appreciate you coming on to the show here with me, and it's been awesome.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I want to thank you guys for joining us on this edition of Safe and Sound, and join us next month where we'll have a new guest and we'll continue our show. Thank you very much.